Hello, I'm Mayor Nenshi, and I'm here today to talk to you about secondary suites. Let's take a step back. In Calgary, we have somewhere between 10,000 and 50,000 existing suites in people's homes. We don't know much about them. We don't even have a better number, because the vast majority of them are illegal. What we do know about them is that the vast majority of them are inhabited by people who are good tenants, with good landlords, and they're good neighbors. But there are some that are not. The big problem, however, is that we have allowed a system to be created where we treat some of our neighbors with a whole different set of rules than the others. We allow some of our neighbors to live in a world where they have no protections. If the smoke detector doesn't work, if there are mice, if there's mold, if the landlord is abusing them, these people have nowhere to turn. Because if they come and complain to the city, we have only one tool in our arsenal, and that is to rip out their stove and kick them out of their house. Indeed, if we were really able to enforce the current laws, right now we close down maybe 0.5% of these suites every year. If we were actually able to massively increase the number of bylaw officers to shut down all of these illegal suites, we would in fact have an affordable housing crisis in Calgary like nothing we'd ever seen before. Let's keep in mind that I will happily stand with the Minister of Housing and I'll cut a ribbon for a new affordable housing government complex that maybe will have 200 or 300 units a year, and we'll be really proud of ourselves for building that many units a year. How in the world could we replace tens of thousands of private sector supplied units that we have now with government-run affordable housing units? It's incomprehensible. So what we really need to do is bring our neighbors into the light, to make sure that our neighbors have the ability to live in safe, legal rental accommodation. The impact of that will be that because there are safe, legal alternatives, we as a city will really have the ability to crack down on the bad landlords, to crack down on the slumlords, and also rely on the market to do part of that for us. Because if there is a safe, legal alternative, who would want to live in an illegal, unsafe alternative? Every other major city in Canada has done this already. They have not seen what some of the naysayers will have you see. Beautiful neighborhoods overrun by renters. I don't agree that we should demonize renters. Renters can be great neighbors. But what they've seen is modest pickup in this process and really an ability to close down the bad ones that already exist in every single neighborhood in this city. That's really what our goal is here. There are serious benefits to secondary suites that go beyond just the tenants. There are benefits to homeowners. Allowing secondary suites allows for people to be able to afford a home by having a little supplement to their mortgage income. It allows seniors and people with disabilities to stay in their home. It allows people to do with their property as they wish. The system we have right now is so strange. Let me give you an example. We had a woman come to City Council who has MS, multiple sclerosis, and her disease is getting worse. She's no longer able to do a lot of the things that she could do before. In particular, it's hard for her to shovel the snow, it's hard for her to keep up the yard at her home. But she wants to stay in her house. She doesn't want to have to move into community care that costs all of us so much. Now, she'd have a number of options. She could get 10 roommates. She could move into a condo and rent out her entire house to a university fraternity. She could do any of these things and City Council would never be involved. What she wants to do is rent her basement to someone she knows for very cheap rent in return for that person helping out around the house and in the yard. And between the two of them, they've got 2 cars, they've got off-site parking for those 2 cars, off-street parking for those 2 cars. Their neighbor across the street, by the way, who doesn't have a suite, has 9 cars and parks them on the street. But because this woman wanted to put a stove in the basement and have a little bit of privacy, that's really what we're talking about. Not the ability to rent a house or get roommates, the ability to put a stove in the basement. Because she wanted to put a stove in the basement, she had to come to City Council, spend thousands of dollars in 18 months and come to City Council and stand in front of 15 strangers live on TV and reveal the most intimate details of her life. What does her disability allow her to do and not do? What is her income? Is she able to work? What are her plans for her life? These intimate details live on TV in front of strangers. She had to beg for the ability to do with her property what she wanted to do. I believe this has to change. The proposal that I'm bringing forward to City Council is that homeowners across the city would be able to apply to have a secondary suite in their home if they so desired. There's still an application process, it's not automatic, but they would be able to apply without going through that rigmarole of coming to council. I'm suggesting 3 criteria. The first is non-negotiable, no discussion. The suite has to meet fire and safety code, and we're working with the province to make sure that the building codes are reasonable. Number 2 and 3 are up for discussion, and I'm happy to have discussion with you on them. Number 2 is that we must provide an off-street parking stall for the suite, as is the current case in neighborhoods zoned for multiple units. I would waive that requirement if the house was very, very close to a rapid transit station. And number 3 is that the owner has to live there. If you want an investment property where you rent up and down, you can do that in current neighborhoods that are zoned R2 or above. But in R1 neighborhoods, the owner has to live there. So you can only rent one of the 2 units. I'm happy to have a discussion on these. And I'm happy to think about other ideas and better ideas that might be out there. Things from mandatory training for landlords to proof of home insurance to home inspection. We can talk about all of those things. But I encourage you to have your voice heard. The most important thing you can do now is let the members of City Council know how you feel. So I encourage you to send my office a note through calgarymayor.ca. I encourage you to contact your alderman. You can use the email address alderweb@calgary.ca or go to calgary.ca to find the actual phone number or email address for your alderman. It's important that all Calgarians are part of this discussion. We have to change the system we have now, and we have to come up with a better solution together. It's all part of building that better Calgary that we all need and making sure that we look after all of our friends and neighbors. Thank you.